All right, so just rewatched the game. Want to get this off my chest. Want to just kind of put out there what I felt after this whole rewatching situation. So what I've heard so far is that the Niners bad play calling, Jimmy blew it, and then I've also heard Niner fans complaining about calls. Why don't we just start with congratulations to Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Tyrann Mathieu. Those are three dudes that I'm super stoked for winning Super Bowl. I watched till the very end. You see them celebrating. And that was the first time I watched that. So my initial reaction to that was just like, okay, those are legit dudes. Congratulations. Not exactly a big fan of Frank Clark or Kelsey or, Tyreek Hill holding his son around. Like, I didn't beat him today, so he likes me. But Chris Jones is dope too. Those main three though, that was just kind of cool to see how what Tyrann said after the game, Andy Reid and Mahomes. So props to them and the Chiefs fans. Now I just want to break it down into three different sections really. The first one is going to be about Jimmy Garoppolo. And I mean, you have to really go back and watch. This guy was fucking dealing until the fourth quarter. And a little bit into the fourth quarter. I mean, when the fourth quarter started and the Niners got the ball for the first time, he was 17 of 20 with a touchdown and a pick. The one pick being atrocious, which he should have thrown, like he was trying to throw the ball away and got hit. Didn't get the ball all the way out of bounds and it was intercepted. So we're looking at one other incompletion, Emmanuel Sanders, that was questionable on a potential grab. They didn't call it, and I forget the other incompletion. That was still in the first half somewhere. So when you're talking about how Jimmy played, then what happened was later in the game, we got these freaking bat downs. Chris Jones, props to him. I mean, he knocked down 2 balls at the line of scrimmage that were at huge moments of the game. Jimmy obviously had the overthrow to Sanders, which, that was I'm not saying everyone's gonna hit that, but yeah, that needs to be caught and needs to be, if that happens, if they complete that, that's a hell of a play. I don't think that's a drop in the hat pass though. You know what I mean? I don't think that's just like, oh, everyone should have thrown that and made that. So, here we go. So Jimmy, I'm trying to think about what else happened in the fourth quarter. There were just some weird situations where it's like, okay, well, here's a long third down. Well, Joe Staley false starts. Now we go backwards. There was other times where I saw Jeff Wilson in the game and I'm sitting there going like, what is that about? And I'm trying to think about what else really went on with him as far as the passes. I mean, there was a nice pass to Kendrick Bourne. It was weird because if you go back, and let's just transition into the play calling part of things. Kyle Shanahan, right? He's getting a lot of heat for not running the ball and not sticking with the run. But if you guys look in the second half, they came out throwing. Like, it wasn't like they abandoned the run game. It wasn't like we are just going to do one thing. It was, what are you showing us? And this is what we're going to do. So, second half of the game, it starts off at half and it's 10-10. I mean, they were giving us 8-man boxes, so we were throwing. And Jimmy was cooking them. I mean, it was completions. We moved the ball. I mean, the touchdown didn't go to Jimmy, but it was literally to use check. He gets out on the 1-yard line and we score in the next play. So there was good run game, but there was also just really efficient passing. I mean, when you go into the fourth quarter and you're winning the turnover battle and you're also putting a lot of pressure on the opposing quarterback, I think we were still favored in time of possession at that point. There's a lot of, and third down conversions were a lot of things pointing in our direction that should say, hey, we're going to win this game. But you got to play 4 quarters. And so here we go, fourth quarter. I think when it got to the fourth quarter, Kyle was still looking at the same situations, right? What are they giving us? Okay, well, let's take what they're giving us and run the plays based off that. So I don't really like the narrative that he gave up on the run. It's just hard because when you're looking at it and how effective the run game was, it's almost like, why would you go away from it? But if you really go back and look, the passing game was really effective. I mean, we were cutting him up with the pass game, a lot off of play action, not so many just straight drops, but that's what Jimmy does. And obviously, why wouldn't you do play action when your run game's that effective? So, the ones that I'm thinking about regarding, some interesting plays, the one where they went to George Kittle, they had Deebo Samuel in the flat. I'm still, those certain plays, Jeff Wilson's on the field. And I don't really know why he's on the field there. The biggest one is the 3rd and 10, the throw to Sanders, which everyone's like keyed in on. I'm also just a little bit not sure why we're throwing deep there. Like we have to get the first down because you get a chunk there, right? And you're going for it on 4th down no matter what. So at that point in the game, it was like a minute 40 left, something in that range. They should have just been pushing it right there. Just get a chunk and then go for it on 4th. Something that Andy Reid did, early on in the game. If you go back to the first quarter, which I really didn't touch on, still sticks out to me that it was like 4th and 2, 4th and 1. Early in the game, they decided to kick a field goal. It was, you do want to reward your offense for a good drive, but you're going up against Patty Mahomes. They're going to score. I get it. He's relying on his defense, so get him some points, get him the lead. But man, it with all the tricks in the book that he has, it's like you don't got something right there. I mean, that almost is questionable. We should have, woulda, coulda, but the aggressiveness, is something that's going to be questioned on the Kyle side, because now if you start stacking it up, first series of the game or whatever, the first one where they're about to score, he went, not complacent, but he went conservative with the field goal. Then at the end of the first half, right, they had about a minute left. And, if you reference back to the Seattle game, week 10, in overtime, Kyle didn't go conservative and he threw 3 times and it gave the ball back to Wilson, who ended up coming down the field to win the game. So I get that you've been burned by it before, being over aggressive, and you've seen the implications of it. And when you're like, man, your defense is good, trust your defense, I get that. But it was a weird thing, and then they got the OPI call, whatever. We're just going to call it a wash. I don't really care about that OPI call because Kyle was pretty adamant and clear. I'm going to halftime, 10-10, and I'm good with it, getting the ball. Then here, the part that kind of gets me again with the conservativeness is you go to that 4th quarter, and it's right around the 2-minute. So the Niners hit the ball with like 2:39. They run the ball with Mostert and gash him for like 14 yards, 13 yards. And now the time's ticking, and you can tell in the huddle, they're almost just going to let it go to the 2-minute warning. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is there not that sense of urgency? We're down 4. We need a touchdown. Just stack momentum, right? You keep the defense on their heels when you're just pushing it down their throat. So I wanted to see another come out, quick pass, or another run there, or play action, something to just keep the defense guessing and then going and moving the ball. But it kind of sputters out. And then there's the delay there's a false start by Emmanuel Sanders with 2 minutes and 2 seconds left. They run the play, they bring it back, then they get the ball again with 2 minutes and 2 seconds because the false start. And I just felt like that drive, for it being so important, the urgency was once again not there. The Niners they've looked good in, I guess you could say, what do you want to call it? Change of pace, or no huddle, or, 2-minute drill where they're moving. But it's like they all have to buy into it, right? They all got to get on that same page, and it just didn't seem like that was there. I don't know if that was from the players or if that was from the coaching. So obviously, yeah. Now, the last thing I wanted to bring up, which I'm not going to get into too much because that's just neither here nor there, and it's really out of our control, but the calls, right? So when I watched the game the first time, I didn't really feel like the officiating was that bad. I think I texted one of my friends and said, only one bad call the whole first half. That's pretty good, which I thought, at the time was the OPI. I looked back on it and I'm like, that's pretty good officiating. I don't really feel like there was anything too swaying in the game. But man, when you watch that second half, if you really look at it, if you watch certain plays or you're keying in on certain matchups, it's like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like Nick Bosa had 12 pressures on Mahomes. Their offensive line never got called for holding once. There's plays where Eric Armstead is getting blocked by a tight end, a backup tight end, clearly getting his jersey grabbed. And it doesn't lead to a major play, but it's just a Mahomes leaks out the pocket, gets a first down. There's plays on the 3rd and 15. If you look at it, Bosa has killed this dude. Eric Fisher is a clown. He got worked all game. Bosa has an inside move. He literally he just hooks him around the arm and brings him to the inside, and that's what buys Mahomes that much time. Think about it. When has Mahomes had time for that kind of play the whole game? He didn't. And there, if you watch that play, there is something. So, yeah, all these little ticky-tack bullshits. Okay, now let's go to their side of the ball. They have the touchdown to Damian Williams to go up 24-20. Okay? I rewatched it. Damian Williams lines up shotgun left of the quarterback. Tyreek Hill motions into the right. They hike the ball. Williams goes to the opposite flat, which is Sherman's flat, and he's guarding Kelsey. So I'm thinking Kelsey's going to run some sort of wiggle route, or he's going to run an in to kind of clear that out. No. Kelsey literally just blocks Sherman 5 yards into the end zone. He's just blocking him right off the play. Ball's not thrown yet. I'm looking at this like, what are the refs watching? This is the only area where the play is even occurring. It's an illegal pick, or it's downfield blocking. It's really not even he's not even like battling for position like he's running a route. If you watch the play, he's clearly just engaging Sherman, driving him back, and which clears out the opening. So, and then the final one, which, you can go ahead and call this. If you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to say this is clearly DPI. If you're a Niner fan, you're probably going to say that's pretty whack. Was the kind of the bailout pass to Travis Kelce, and Tavarius Moore is guarding him man-to-man. It's thrown short. Kelce's looking back for it. Tavarius Moore jumps up in the air, doesn't look back. There is no rule that you have to look back at the ball. There's no penalty for face guarding. It's not a real thing. The problem I have with it is two things. One, I don't think that's really a penalty. I hate the bailout call for underthrown pass interference. That shit kills me because it's underthrown. And then by the time the receiver looks up, he just kind of goes back into the defender. And it's like, bro, that was never going to be catchable. The second part is that they ruled it in the end zone. So when they rule it, when there's defensive pass interference in the end zone, the ball gets placed on the 1 yard line. If you watch, and if they're truly calling it when he jumped or engaged Kelsey or whatever you want to call it, it's short of the end zone. So it should be half the distance to the goal. Instead, they put the ball on the 1 yard line. They score the next play. So, yes, number one, the accountability on Jimmy. Yeah, he could have executed some plays better. Those swatted balls were brutal. Number two, Shanahan, the play calling, the aggressiveness. 3 different times I brought up him being a little conservative. But I did want to kill that narrative of that they should have just stuck with the run, or they gave up on the run, or the passing wasn't working. That's garbage. And then finally the penalties. I could go back and watch some, I'm sure I could go back and watch calls and be really ticky-tacky for the Chiefs, looking for calls. I saw one, Anthony Zettel got a little bit of Mahomes' face on one pass. I was trying to see if there was any other ones. Obviously I'm going to key in on the Niner ones. So that's kind of my little breakdown of the game. Like I said, the Chiefs won. So props to them. And I like some of their players. So good work on those guys. I think, the the Niners did a lot of good things, and it was really one of those games where you come away and you're like, man, they were like, it didn't seem like they should have lost that. Well, I agree. When you're up when you had a 96% chance to win the game and you lose, that's how you're going to feel. I mean, Mahomes threw 2 picks in the second half, one to Fred Warner. Terrible play. I mean, you got to go back and also look at Mahomes, right? Fourth quarter going in, he was 16 of 25, 145 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, right? So the reason I'm not even bringing up the defense today and as part of this, because that's the freaking MVP, right? That is not good. 16 of 25, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 145 yards. He was getting whooped. The O-line wasn't blocking well. We were winning on defense, so I can't put any of this on the defense. And then in the fourth quarter, 12 minutes left, Mahomes was that behind the pass to Tyreek Hill, and Tavarius Moore picks it off. So now there's only 12 minutes left. The Niners ran down, did the celebration touchdown thing with the picture, and they're up 10. I mean, it's 20-10. Mahomes has 2 picks now. He's, I don't know what you want to call it, 20 of 35. I mean, I don't know. But he didn't look good. So to hold Mahomes for that long, I mean, he won MVP, but really, you know, Damian Williams probably should have won it with the 2 TDs. But it's like that defense did their job. There was a couple of weird calls, and the game is where it is. So props to the Chiefs. Hell of a Super Bowl. It's a totally different one than the Ravens because the Niners were behind that whole game. So it just felt like they never got over the hump to win it. This one, they're ahead most of the game, and it feels like they let it slip away. So young team, overachieved this year. 13-3, bang, bang, Niner gang. I'm out.